What is up, YouTube? Thank you all so much for taking a few moments out of your day to join me. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at two fantastic understable distance drivers from Discraft, the Heat and the Avenger SS. Based on the flight numbers, these two discs are very similar to each other, so which one would I recommend to most players? Let's find out. So let's go ahead and take a look, starting with the profiles, and as you can clearly see, the Heat has a lot more dome to it versus the Avenger SS has a much flatter flight top. However, there are Heats out there that do have that kind of slight dome to them. You just really have to look for those. And when it comes down to feel, I like the Heat for backhand because it has more of that gradual dome to it, versus the Avenger SS I personally prefer on forehand because it feels a little bit shallower and also has that flatter flight plate. However, the rim depth is identical on both of these discs, as well as the rim width, making these very similar discs, so a lot of it is going to come down to feel. But let's go ahead and take a look at how the discs stack up side by side under different conditions. Now, when thrown on a hyzer, I have to say I do like the Avenger SS more. It holds that arcing hyzer for us slower arm speeds, versus the Heat, as you saw there, it likes to flip up. Now, that's not saying you can't get a Heat to hold a hyzer line, but it takes specialized plastic like the crystal here. Otherwise, with other plastic types, you're gonna have to power down to keep that hyzer line, while the Avenger SS just doesn't flip up nearly as easy. Now, when it comes to straight shots, again, the Avenger SS is going to hold straighter, longer, but then is going to have a nice predictable fade just at the very end of the flight as it slows down, versus when it comes to the Heat, yes, you can get it to hold very straight, but it's going to have a little bit more drift. If you're right-handed, it's going to drift to the right. If you're left-handed, it's going to drift to the left. But you will need to power down just a little bit in order to get those straight shots. Now, when it comes to the S-curve shots, just naturally, this is where the Heat really shines over the Avenger SS. The Heat overall has a little bit less torque resistance in the early part of the flights versus the Avenger SS, so for slower arms beginners, it's going to be a lot easier to get those S-curving shots, versus the Avenger SS, as we saw, is just going to fly very straight and then just have a little bit of hyzer, so again, the nod there to the Heat. And now when it comes to the turnover shots, this is, again, I think the Heat is easier to control on these turnover lines that almost turn over all the way to the ground. Not saying the Avenger SS can't do it, it definitely can, but you have to have a little bit more angle control or a bit more arm speed in order to overcome the Avenger SS's natural resistance to torque. So how about in the wind? And well, these are understable discs, so I really would not recommend throwing them into the wind, as even one of the most overstable Heats out there, the crystal, as you can see, it still turns, and the wind just never really lets it come back, which also holds true for the Avenger SS, as you can see. I mean, let's face it, these are not great wind discs at all. Now let's go ahead and compare them on forehand. And for the Heat, I mean, you can get it to hold these nice flexing shots, these nice S-curve shots, but you have to kind of power down on it. Same thing with the Avenger SS. You can maybe put a little bit more into it, again, just because it holds torque slightly better. It can hold a little bit straighter. So when it comes to forehand, I would primarily only be using these discs in the woods when I need like a standstill shot. A disc where you just can't put a lot into it, but you can really use the natural glide from both of these discs on those standstills to not sacrifice too much distance. One attribute of both these discs that they have is that they both come in a lot of different plastic types, as you saw, the different plastic types for the Heat and then also for the Avenger SS. I mean, and these probably aren't even all of them. There are different runs out there that I probably didn't even list here, but boy, these discs come in a lot of different plastics. So let's take a look at a few of them side by side and see how just changing up the plastics really affects the flight. So I just want to take a quick moment to apologize that I didn't toss in either a regular stock Z or the Ledgestone Swirly Z heats, because those are the most understable runs of heats that I have found, and I think that would really have shown the big range in shots that you can hit with the heat when looking at these follow flights. Now, in general, the Crystal is going to be the most overstable. The ESP is, I think, kind of in the middle. Metallic Z, I feel, kind of bridges that gap. But again, I wish I would have put the stock Z in to really show just how much more understable the heat can be. But when compared to the Avenger SS, again, at full power, these discs are very, very similar. They're very understable. You can see all of them get those nice drifting to the left, or for you right-handed players, drifting to the right flights, and then just a little bit of hyzer at the very end. I think overall the Heat has a little bit more glide than the Avenger SS, partly because Heats do tend to come with a little bit more dome, and so I think the Heats can get a little bit more distance potential out of them, which is great for those beginner or slower arm speed players. But what about the Avenger SS? Because it's a good beginner disc as well. It's very nice and understable. Again, maybe not quite as understable as the Heat. It has a little bit more fight in it, but it's still a disc that you can hit a wide variety of shots with. So overall, the Heat leans slightly less stable, just as much as the Avenger SS leans slightly more stable. And when it comes to the plastics, the ESP Avenger SS, I feel, really mimics the Crystal Heat, but it's also more readily available, something that you can find a lot easier, so again, making it more appealing to more players. But if you're really wanting a really beefy Avenger SS, at least out of the box, the Glow Zs are extremely overstable. Until you hit the very first tree and it becomes an ultimate roller disc. So which of these discs would I recommend to a player? It would have to be the Avenger SS, just because, again, it's a disc you can grow into, and there are so many different shots you can hit with it. You can hit nice big turnover shots, you can have nice straight tunnels, these great S-curve flexing shots, and you can also keep it on a hyzer. Plus, it's not as finicky on forehands. It's just all around, I feel it's a better disc. It also feels a little bit better in the hand because it has that shallower profile. So for me, with my little hands, it just feels so much more natural with my grip. And let's be honest, the feel of the disc is one of the most underrated aspects of whether or not you should throw it or not. Alright, so that is all I have for you today. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe, as it really helps the channel out and I greatly appreciate it. Thank you everyone, until next time, keep banging them chains.